Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again inside our Home Field Credit Union Studio B for this week's edition of the Milford Informer. I am your host, Tim Coet. Before you race out the door to stock up on bread and milk for this weekend storm, we encourage you to sit back and get caught up on the latest news and sports from around the community from the past week. Let's jump right in and take a look at tonight's top stories rundown.
Tonight, we sit down with representatives from the Milford Schools and the Milford, Massachusetts Foundation for Education to learn about an upcoming presentation the two groups will be hosting titled Social Networking, What's a Parent to Do? Also tonight, we'll share highlights from this week's Unified Wrestling match between Milford and Stoughton, and we'll also hear reaction from the athletes and coaches. And later in sports, we'll share two exciting highlight reels from Milford boys basketball, featuring matchups with North Attleboro and Taunton.
Social networking and the use of personal devices is becoming a challenging topic for parents to navigate with their children. The Milford Schools and the Milford, Massachusetts Foundation for Education are hoping to help parents deal with this difficult subject. This week I sat down with representatives from both the school and the MMFFE to learn more about a presentation they are hosting later this month that will delve into this important topic. And we are very happy to be joined on the Milford Informer this week by two representatives from the Milford Schools. We have Christina Cody, who's the Vice President of the Milford, Massachusetts Foundation for Education. Just wrapping up about the first year of existence for that group, so welcome, happy to have you.
Thank you.
And of course, Craig Consigli, the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Assessment within Milford Schools. Craig, thank you very much for joining us as well.
Thanks for having us.
An important topic that we're going to get into a little bit, a big presentation coming up related to social media that you guys have collaborated on. But before we get to the details on that, Christina, I wanted to start with you, as I mentioned, about a year now of existence for the Milford, Massachusetts Foundation for Education. We were happy to have you on a little while back when you guys were first getting started. How has the organization grown now in this first year of existence?
You know, we've really come together to start putting together programs and things like that for the community and teachers, as well as parents. So we're looking forward, moving forward, to start adding and providing new experiences in the community. That's great.
And Craig, from a school perspective, how has having the Milford, Massachusetts Education Foundation helped from your perspective?
I think the biggest way it's helpful for us, is our collaboration with Hawk University. I like having Christina and Vinny to be able to bounce ideas off of, and really what we're going to talk about today came from ideas from them. So.
And that's really, and first of all, Hawk University, just a great name for it, but really just an opportunity for you guys to have various presentations for anywhere from parents in the community to kids, and bringing different opportunities to just learn and grow. What are some of the we'll get into the details on this one certainly, but what are some of the other programs you guys have had an opportunity to bring to the community through Hawk University?
You know, we were able to have a one-day seminar for parents, and it sort of worked in a way that we brought in different professionals in the community, and parents were able to choose which programs they want to go to. You know, there was such a wide array of things we could bring in, and so we really wanted to bring in as many as possible.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so again, this is another big one. The program is called Social Networking, What's a Parent to Do? And it's also going to be challenging from a school perspective, Craig. Social media just getting bigger and bigger all the time. Kids with devices in school, on social networking, outside of school. It's got to be a challenge for you guys to kind of keep up with trying to police this as best you can with all of the various dangers that come along with it.
Right. And honestly, it's a balancing act. It's what's appropriate for the student or the child in the minute. Obviously in schools we don't want students on phones, but we have to balance that with what parents want, because parents, and rightly so, should be able to get in touch with their children whenever they need to. But how do you balance that from a school perspective to a parent perspective to even what the child wants? I think in some ways having the tools, having a phone, having Chromebooks can be very helpful. It can open up a whole different world for our kids. But in other ways it can be very dangerous. And I think that's the premise of this conversation with Joni.
And so that you'll have a presenter for the event, Joni Geltman, and someone who's Christine has a lot of experience giving these presentations and sort of shedding some new insight for parents and for kids on how to kind of traverse this tricky road.
Absolutely, absolutely. Joni's presentation is definitely geared towards the parents and guardians of these children, so we want the adults to be there. But we've listened to her speak, and she shared what she's talking about, and I think it's so important for anybody who has a teen, a preteen with technology in their hand to go and listen to her speak.
Is there sort of maybe a number one concern? I guess maybe it would be easy to say bullying is something that has emerged a lot. Is that the number one concern that you guys would say that you deal with social media right now?
With social media, yes. As far as having a device, I think one of the concerns that I hear over and over again is when's the appropriate time? When should I put a device in my child's hand? My three little ones out there, if they could have a phone right now, they would have it. But it's not appropriate. I think exposing students and children to these various devices and how to use them and kind of staging it up is the right way to go. So.
And from a parent perspective, I'm guessing, and I'm not a parent myself, but there has to be a sort of a pressure there that parents feel of having kids who their friends may have a device at an age that they're not comfortable with. So having a seminar like this, having a presentation like this, maybe gives parents an opportunity to voice those concerns with other parents and maybe find some common ground and get a little more comfortable with their own decisions.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and the other piece of this discussion is our presenter Joni is going to inform parents on just different apps that they can have on the phone so that they can control some of those things.
Also apps to look for that their students or their children might have on the phone. Yeah. Even listening to her and talking about there are apps on phones that hide certain things. She knew all this stuff that, I mean, the things that she was speaking, even just in meeting her and listening to her. So, yeah.
I mean, that sounds like some important insight that I think everybody should have. So again, the social networking, What's a Parent to Do? It's a presentation that's taking place on January 30th. It's taking place inside the Stacy Middle School auditorium. Starts at 7 o'clock, should go until 9 o'clock. And again, presenter Joni Geltman, who has a lot of experience, a lot of insight in this area. And it's a free event, so any parents in the community are welcome to come.
Yes.
So that's great. Again, January 30th at Stacy Middle School Auditorium from 7 to 9 o'clock, and an opportunity for Joni to go through her presentation. But as I mentioned, questions from the audience will be welcome.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it's not limited or geared towards anyone specific, although we are kind of saying middle school, high school. However, I certainly think it's appropriate for elementary parents as well.
It's certainly making its way. Younger and younger kids are getting exposed to this all the time, so certainly important to get some insight from those kids as well, and for parents of those kids as well. So again, we look forward to hearing how things go. Again, January 30th is the date for this presentation. It's a free event, so parents out there who are watching this right now, free to attend, and we certainly encourage you to check it out. It's going to be certainly a lot of valuable information being talked about during this event. Well, we thank you so much for your time, and continued success to the Milford, Massachusetts Foundation for Education and the schools as well on what's been a terrific collaboration with you guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The talented athletes of the Milford Special Olympics had an opportunity to flex their muscles earlier this week as they took part in a unified wrestling match with Stoughton High School. Milford TV producer Mike Sperling went down to cover all the action and to talk to some of the athletes and coaches about their experiences with unified sports.
Unified wrestling is to make the kids with special needs to feel like they're part of the high school, part of the team. They get to wrestle with the high school. Me and Nick started as a Special Olympics wrestling match, but now it's come into unified, so we're praying that we have other teams in the state would lock in and do the same thing. just to have these kids more involved with the high school kids. Thanks to our coaches, we have Coach Cody and Dean, and then we have Coach over here. They've been helping out quite a bit. They're my youth team, so I have quite a big youth and middle school team, and they come down and they help out, and these coaches have put in the time. I basically just tell them what to do, and they kind of do all the work, and they interact with the kids, and it also teaches them to interact with the special needs kids. So when they go to school, they know them as a regular person, as especially, who's that? I don't know who that is. So now it's great that they get to know them and move on from there. Last year we wrestled North Attleboro, and North Attleboro was all about it. They're actually trying to start a team. Stoughton today was pretty amped up, and it teaches the other kids on the other team to get more involved with kids with disabilities. The next step is to make it bigger and get other teams to do the same thing. So when we're having our unified matches, the other teams having unified matches against our high school kids too, so it's kind of like the same thing. So that's what we're working on right now. We have another match next week, same time, and we're gonna do the same thing against another team.
Thank you, Jeff.
It's been so much fun. Everybody's seeing my friends, and I thank you so much when you come. And you're my perfect here, and it's my school.
I think it's great.
All right, great.
I think we have the best team ever. I hope we can do this next year.
Yes, definitely. Coaches, you come on up here. How do you guys like coaching?
I think it's an awesome experience, not just for us, but for them, because we get to make them do activities that kids like them would never be able to do. We let them also wrestle and be a part of the family, a part of the wrestling family.
Nice, nice.
And you just took the words right from my mouth, Cody.
Nice job. What about you?
It's fun.
Nice, guys.
It's a lot of fun.
So we're a big family. We have a huge wrestling family, whether it's high school, youth, middle, unified. We're just one big team, and that's what we say on the back.
We've already reached the halfway point in the high school basketball season. This past week featured a pair of big matchups for the Scarlet Hawks boys basketball team, hoping to make a move up the standings. Let's take a look at the full highlights, starting with last Friday night's marquee matchup with North Attleboro.
4 teams entered into last Friday in a virtual tie for second place in the Davenport standings. 2 of those teams came face-to-face in the Milford gym as the Hawks took on their rivals from North Attleboro. It was a sluggish offensive start through the early minutes for the Hawks. A minute and a half in, North would connect on a cross-court pass to a wide-open Nate Gonsalves, who would drain the 3 to place North on an early 5-0 run. After Jordan Darling got Milford on the board, watch here as Brendan Saylor finds White with a bounce pass between 2 North defenders, and White puts it in to cut it to 5-4. Seconds later, after a steal by Saylor, White would force his way into the paint, collecting another layup to allow Milford to jump on top. Milford would continue to build momentum from there. Here off the miss by Saylor, Colby Perez grabs the offensive rebound and drains the 3-pointer. Then off the ensuing inbounds, Don Schofield gets the deflection, and Jordan Darling turns it into points, putting Milford on a 5-0 run. A pair of successful free throws would increase the Hawks' lead to 6 midway through the quarter, but from there momentum would quickly shift. A series of quick passes would free up Ethan Freiberg from 3, and he would make the shot to instantly cut the Hawks' lead in half. After a couple of empty trips up the floor from Milford, North would go back to Freiberg, and this time he'd connect from the far wing to tie the score at 13. On the next North possession, they'd continue to ride the hot hand, and Freiberg would not let them down. Ethan Freiberg would go on his own personal 9-0 run, and North Attleboro would end up scoring the last 11 points of the first quarter, placing the score at 18-13 Rocketeers heading into the second. A pair of clutch long-range shots would keep Milford close in the second quarter. First it was Saylor cutting into a 7-point North lead with this contested three. Then with Saylor forced to the bench with foul trouble, Matt Vardaresian would enter the game, and he would connect on a high-arcing three to cut the Milford deficit to 3. North would manage to hang on to that 3-point lead as the teams reached halftime. Brendan White would get the third quarter off to a good start for Milford. Off the opening possession, White is able to hit this pretty fadeaway jumper. Then as North takes the ball up the floor, White forces the issue defensively, breaking up the pass and then winning the foot race to the loose ball before taking it in for an uncontested layup, swinging the lead back in Milford's favor. With North back up by 3, Milford would find the answer again, this time thanks to sophomore Ben Blanchard, whose roof-scraping 3 would knot the score at 31. But North would continue to put the pressure on. In the closing minutes of the third, big man Matt Seavey would grab his third bucket of the period, allowing the Rocketeers to take a 6-point lead. From there, Ben Blanchard would once again be the catalyst for a Hawks rally. His second deep 3 of the game would cut it back down to a 3-point margin. And then it was Perez with the last word in the third quarter, connecting on a 3 that would ultimately send us on to the fourth quarter, deadlocked at 42. After the teams traded buckets through the early minutes, North's size down low would start to become a major factor. First, it's Jake Peterson who sneaks behind the defense to get an easy look underneath the basket. Then after George Ladd came through with a shot block on the defensive end for North, it's back to Peterson who cleans up the offensive rebound and puts it back, getting the shot and the foul. Seconds later, Milford would have a chance to put points on the board with the clock stopped, but Brendan White would miss both of his free throw chances, keeping it at a 5-point deficit. With Milford's chances for a comeback waning, they'd come through with a couple of huge defensive plays in the closing seconds. Jordan Darling keeps excellent positioning on Peterson here and is able to block the shot attempt. Then after Milford is able to cut it to a 3-point deficit, watch as Brendan White comes flying in under the basket to reject the shot from Ethan Freiberg. The stands would be rocking as the game came down to the final 30 seconds, with North at the line clinging to a 1-point lead. George Ladd could not make the free throw, but the ball would ricochet right to the Rocketeers, giving them the chance to take precious seconds off the clock before Milford finally had to commit the foul. This time North would make both shots, leaving Milford in need of a 3-pointer to tie. The Rocketeers would blanket Milford on the perimeter, forcing Saylor to toss up a contested shot that would miss. White would put it back for 2, but that wouldn't be enough, and time would eventually run out on the Hawks' comeback bid. It was an excellent back-and-forth battle, but in the end Milford would lose their third straight, falling to North Attleboro by a final score of 53-52. The Hawks were hopeful they could finally break out of their losing streak on Tuesday, as they remained at home to take on the 7-3 Taunton Tigers. Taunton entered the game with impressive offensive numbers, but it was the Hawks that would jump out to a fast start on the scoreboard. An offensive rebound keeps the early possession alive for Brendan Saylor, who would connect on a shot from the far wing to give the Hawks 3 quick points. Then it's Perez who drives inside before dishing out to Dom Schofield, who shows good range on the jumper. A few minutes later, it's Saylor again, this time from the top of the key. He nets another 3 to put Milford on an 8-2 run to open the night. It would be all Milford to start the game, but as the first quarter went on, Milford would be reintroduced to the dynamic scoring ability of Tigers junior Dante Law.
Trying to feed inside for John Martins, now back out for Law, and that's good from 3. Milford cold out there offensively after 9 quick points, and Dante Law doing it again. Michael Quinn doing a good job defensively. Now here's Law all the way to the hole. And Law now 11 first quarter points.
Law would outscore Milford all by himself over the first 8 minutes, giving the Tigers a 13-9 lead. In the second quarter, it would be a junior on the Milford side who would step up to try to keep the Hawks close.
Tries to fight through a double team, the ball loose. He tries to pick it back up. Taunton wins it, then puts it right back in the hands of Weatherby. Here's Perez to the basket, count it, and the foul. Lead 7 for the Tigers. Here's Perez, the long jumper. Saylor taking his time, now finds Perez. He has the look he wants, drains the 3.
Perez would collect 9 points in the second quarter, but the Hawks could not keep Taunton's offense in check, and as a result, Milford would be staring up at a 7-point deficit at the half. As the game entered the third quarter, we'd see a third different player take center stage offensively, but unfortunately for Hawks fans, that player was wearing Tigers colors.
And now White this time able to jar the ball loose. Law gets it back though. Leads to a wide open look for Lou Vendrell from the corner. Student section again trying to get engaged. Lob pass into Stewart, now back up top from Martins. It's Vendrell who takes the shot and nails it. Colby Pires trying to answer offline. Schofield was there for the rebound but couldn't secure it. Now Vendrell, fancy behind the back pass, takes it all the way to the rack and ends this third quarter with an exclamation point.
It was an 8-point quarter for Lou Vendrell, while Milford as a team managed just 7 points, and that would send the game into the fourth quarter with Milford in a big hole down by 16. The Hawks were hoping to get a jolt of momentum as the fourth quarter started, but instead they would witness more greatness from Dante Law. In the opening minute of the fourth, Vendrell would come away with a steal and then would dish a pass ahead to Dante Law, who would finish with the two-hand slam to push the Tigers' lead to 18 points. The Hawks would be unable to mount much of a comeback from there, and Coach Seaver would allow many of his bench players to see extended time on the floor as the fourth quarter concluded. The frustration would continue for another game as the Scarlet Hawks dropped their fourth straight and fifth out of 6 as they would lose to the Taunton Tigers by a final of 59-47.
It has been a very difficult stretch for the Scarlet Hawks. The team has yet to win a game since the calendar flipped to January, and now the team can only afford to lose 3 more times the rest of the way if they hope to work their way back into the playoff discussion. The boys will be on the road for their next 2 games, including a matchup in Stoughton tonight and a trip to Oliver Ames next Tuesday before returning home for a tilt against Davenport Division leader Canton a week from tonight. Meanwhile, our coverage inside the Milford gym continues tonight as the Lady Hawks basketball team hosts their counterparts from Stoughton. The game is currently streaming live on milfordtv.net and on live stream if you've tuned into us on our premiere time on Friday night. That game, as well as all of our basketball coverage, will be up on the Educational Channel and on YouTube by early next week. Now let's take a look at tonight's upcoming events.
Coming up on Tuesday, join members of the Milford Area Chamber of Commerce as they host their latest Business After Hours event at Proverti Labs. Proverti offers testing in the medical marijuana industry, and this event will give participants a chance to take a tour and check out their testing labs. There will also be light bites as well as complimentary beer and wine served. The Business After Hours event will take place on Tuesday, January 22nd at Proverti Labs from 5 to 7 p.m. For more information, log on to milfordchamber.org. And here's an early heads up that on February 1st, Milford TV will be hosting another live concert experience. The event is called Glowbox at Milford TV and will of course feature the rock and roll band Glowbox. This live concert experience is set to take place inside Milford TV's Studio A on Friday, February 1st from 7 to 9 p.m. The performance is being recorded and audience members are welcome. There will be limited seating available inside the studio, with additional viewing in our Milford TV screening room. Once again, Glowbox at Milford TV is taking place on Friday, February 1st, right here at Milford TV, beginning at 7 p.m. For more information, head over to Facebook and search for the event Glowbox at Milford TV.
That's going to wrap things up for this week. If you're planning on traveling this weekend, please be safe out on the roads and be aware of any parking restrictions. Enjoy the snowy long weekend, and we will talk to you again next week. From all of us here at Milford TV, this is Tim Coet saying have a great week. So long, everybody.